The Indian subcontinent has been a significant pathway for early humans since they first appeared in Africa. While the exact timing when humans entered this region is uncertain, evidence suggests their presence in India even before the eruption of Mount Toba in Indonesia around 74,000 years ago. The rich tapestry of languages and cultures makes the Indian subcontinent a unique and vibrant mosaic, reflecting the diverse histories and identities of its people. In the northern regions, you find speakers of Indo-European languages, while Dravidian languages are more common in the south, and Tibeto-Burman languages dominate the northeastern areas. The Austroasiatic language family is represented by Munda and Santhal tribes in central India, as well as in Meghalaya and Nicobar Islands located in the Bay of Bengal. Notably, Austroasiatic speakers are exclusively found among tribal communities. The caste hierarchy is a characteristic feature of Indian social system. However, its origin is uncertain, but it is first mentioned in the Rig Veda between 1700 and 1100 BC. It's a social hierarchy based on occupation with four main categories: Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. When early modern humans moved out of Africa into Eurasia, there were two main paths they took. One path went through northern regions like the Nile Valley and Sinai Peninsula. The other path, the southern route, went from the Horn of Africa across Red Sea into southern and southeastern Asia, including Australia. Along this southern route, the stone tools they used were not as advanced as those found along the northern route. This suggests that people took the southern route earlier than the northern one. An interesting point is that some of the first humans to leave Africa along the southern route settled in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. These islanders have unique DNA showing their ancient origin and isolation. Looking at genetics helps to understand this migration. People from sub-Saharan Africa have certain genetic markers, and only one of those markers, called L3, moved out of Africa around 60,000 years ago. L3 split into M and N haplogroups. The M group is interesting because it's mostly found in South and East Asia, not along the northern route. The haplogroup M is found in high frequency in India, the first major stop along this southern route, suggesting an early and significant migration through this path. Genetic evidence supports the southern route, especially from mitochondrial DNA and Y chromosome haplogroups. These genetic markers point to a path through India. Also, studies on ancient populations in Southeast Asia and Andaman and Nicobar Islands supports this southern route. The timing of this southern migration is older than 65,000 years, meaning that modern humans reached India around this time. The people speaking the Austroasiatic language family might be a result of this early migration through South Asia, as their timeline matches up with when these early migrations happened. The second wave of human dispersal from Africa through the northern route reached Central Asia and radiated to North and East Asia. This wave carried prominent mitochondrial DNA haplogroups A and B. Later expansions can be traced through the presence of subclades of haplogroup U in India and Europe. This second migration resulted in the development and influx of Upper Paleolithic blade and Mesolithic microlithic technology into India. Unfortunately, there is lack of absolute dates for these cultures, making it difficult to predict their time of arrival. Around 10,000 years ago, a significant transformation called Neolithic Revolution happened. People started domesticating animals and living in settled communities, which led to more people in Eurasia. Around 8,000 years ago, in a place called Elam in southwestern Iran, important farming developments occurred. The farmers here likely spoke a special language, possibly related to Dravidian family. As they farmed, this language might have spread to Indus Valley and Indian subcontinent. The spread of this language is supported by existence of Brahui, a Dravidian-speaking group in Pakistan. Studies on Y chromosome haplogroups like HG9 suggest that as farming spread eastward to Indus Valley, there was a major movement of people into that region. These newcomers mixed with local hunter-gatherers who had been there for a long time, creating a blend of different genetic and cultural backgrounds. The ancient genetic component from these early people are mostly found in South India. Around 5000 to 1500 BC, nomadic groups from Central Asia, possibly related to Yamnaya culture, moved southward into Pakistan and India. They brought Indo-European languages with them. This arrival coincided with the decline of strong agricultural civilizations like the Harappans in South Asia. The Indo-European languages they brought likely replaced Dravidian languages in certain areas and might have introduced the caste system. The Yamnaya people were skilled herders and farmers, and they were the first humans to have blue eyes. The widely accepted idea is that these Indo-European speakers migrated in multiple waves from their homeland using different routes across Europe and Asia. This is known as Kurgan hypothesis. The Indo-European language is widely spoken in Europe, Persia, and India. Genetic studies have found connections between Indo-European people and their origins in Yamnaya culture. They share specific markers in their DNA, but it's a bit tricky to fully understand due to complexities of how populations moved, mixed, and changed over time. The original Indo-European language had a lot of words related to transportation, showing the way of life of the Yamnaya people. Interestingly, they did not have specific words for cities or towns, suggesting they mostly lived in rural areas in Eastern Europe. The cultures that spoke Indo-European languages made big contributions to ancient civilizations, like the Vedic civilization in India, the Persian Empire, and Greco-Roman world. Around 10,000 years ago, the region in South Asia went through significant changes in its population. Before 2000 BCE, people in the Indus Valley had a mix of Iranian Parma-related and ancient ancestral South Indian ancestry. Then, a new group called Ancestral South Indians emerged after 2000 BCE, mixing Iranian Parma-related and ancient ancestral South Indian ancestry. Between 2000 and 1000 BCE, a group with mostly Central Steppe-related ancestry moved into South Asia, mixing with the Indus Valley people. They became the main source of North Indian ancestry. After 2000 BCE, a mix of ancestral South Indian and ancestral North Indian populations formed what we now see as modern Indian people. The ancestral South Indians, possibly the Indus people, moved south and east after the decline of Indus Valley civilization, mixing with groups having more ancient ancestral South Indian ancestry. This is linked to the distribution of Dravidian languages in South India and southwestern Pakistan. An alternative scenario suggests that Proto-Dravidian languages were spread by other half of ancestral South Indian ancestry, which did not come in contact with Indus region but instead originated from south and east. This idea aligns with reconstruction of Proto-Dravidian terms related to flora and fauna unique to peninsular India. In India, tribal groups show more genetic diversity than caste populations, hinting that tribals might be the first people to settle in the region. Even though there are uncertainties about Austroasiatic tribes being native to India, mitochondrial DNA studies suggest that they are among the earliest inhabitants of the region. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands were settled by early modern humans who were the first to leave Africa. There are two distinct groups of tribes there, one with similarities to African Pygmies and Asians, and another with features resembling Chinese, Malays, and Burmese. These tribes are not closely related to African Pygmies, and their unique features might have developed over time. In Andaman Islands, the people can be divided into two main groups, Little Andaman and Great Andaman. The Little Andaman includes tribes like Ongis, Sentinelese, and Jarawa, while Great Andaman is split into northern and southern groups. In northeastern India, tribes speaking Tibeto-Burman languages likely came from southern China through northeastern corridor. Genetic differences distinguish them from Austroasiatic tribes, and some studies suggest they might be more recent arrivals. Recent genetic and archaeological findings have clarified the history of South Asia. The ancient ancestral South Indian population is identified as earliest inhabitant. Two migrations shaped the current population. one involving Iranian farmers mixing with ancient ancestral South Indians and other with Eurasian steppe people mixing with the same group. More importantly, the research shows that the spread of Indo-European people did not necessarily happen at the same time as the spread of agriculture. Genetic evidence contradicts the idea that Aryans built the Indus Valley civilization over the original inhabitants of South Asia. Instead, Aryans were a later group from northwest part of the Eurasian steppe population. Further studies are expected to provide more insights into the complex history of South Asia.